guys. Hey. So, end of week 3. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. It was so good to see everyone just out and about and enjoying Thanksgiving and showing up still every day, even though things were crazy. Of course, there's the break in between and a few days off, and still seeing everyone rock up for the turkey trot and also for classes. So, yeah, great seeing you guys be consistent and showing up. It's a real testament to how you guys want to feel. So, what I wanted to talk about right now, you're in week 3 or at the end of week 3. This is where things get tough. You've just had Thanksgiving, few days off. I know I'm feeling a little bit sluggish. I'm not very good when there isn't a routine of training, work, everything else. So, what I want you guys to think about is those few days are not going to impact my long term gains or my long term habit building. But I have to get back into that routine as soon as possible. I have to get those habits back on track. I have to get my thoughts around food, make sure I'm eating cleaner than I was over Thanksgiving, maybe. Make sure I'm ticking all of those boxes again as soon as possible. Because the longer that we go on in that sort of in between land, the less likely we are to sort of realize those gains or realize those goals. And like I was talking to someone last night, like the amount that you can achieve between now and the end of the next 3 weeks is going to be phenomenal if we can get back on the horse, get things moving again, really focus and concentrate on what we want to achieve in the next few weeks. And I know it's sounds like, oh really, like 3 weeks, but you've laid the groundwork in the first 3 weeks. You've done the hard work of thinking about being really present with your choices, building those habits. There was a lot to learn as well, like about all of the different the components. So what I'm asking is that everyone come into the next week and the 2 weeks after that with that real focus. I know some of you are going to be traveling. Okay, so how am I going to set myself up for success? Am I going to go to the grocery store, make sure I have things stocked while I'm traveling? Am I going to make sure I have snacks and water when I'm traveling? Am I going to make sure I get exercise, even if it's just going outside for a walk? If you can't get outside, what is there to do inside? I'm sure I can think up of an EMOM for you to do inside to get you moving for half an hour. So, asking you guys, what's it going to be? Are we going to double down for these next 3 weeks and make sure we're really, really focused coming into the last little bit of the year? Or are we going to let all that hard work go by the wayside? So, just something to think about as we go back into the work week tomorrow. So, choice is yours, guys. Moving on to what's going to be happening in week 4 and what we're going to talk about. So, we're going to be, again, covering the first few things. So, we have our core habits, starting your day with water, protein every meal, exercise or classes 3 times a week. We've talked about macros, our macronutrients, which is our protein, our carbs, our fats, and if you want to be that way inclined, fibers are 4th macronutrient. If you want to find out more about fiber, I know I only did a short video, but let me know. Consistency. Now with this, coming into week 4, I want you guys to look back and figure out what cues helped and what cues hindered you from being consistent. And yeah, Thanksgiving was a big one for a lot of us. But really thinking about what those cues are and recognizing them. It's a lot around that sort of being mindful and self-aware. And think about that reality versus perception. The last few days could have been really difficult when you're trying to be consistent. So, what does consistent actually look like for you? Little bit of a new thing, and Andrew and I are going to discuss this later. Reflection and self-assessment. And this is when it gets into what in I've always called like the soft skills. So you're really trying to think why and how. Like, if there's certain things that made you feel good, why did they make me feel good? How am I going to continue that or set myself up so that I can continue to feel good? What didn't work? What made me feel bad? Why did it make me feel bad? And how can I solve that to be better next time? So there's a lot of tools that you can use, a few things that Andrew and I'll go through. But the other thing about reflection is tracking. One thing that's, I track my food, I track my workouts in an app. There are lots of things out there, but that's also a way of self-reflection. You can go back and look at how you did in a workout, what you achieved. And then self-experimentation coming under that reflection and self-assessment. You are your best guide as to what is good for you. If you found that any of the amounts of proteins or carbs or fats are making you feel a little bit not right, making you feel better, you increased your carbs, you felt you had more energy, okay, well, let's dig into that. Do we want to try a little bit more carbs? Do we want to stay there and see how we feel for a few weeks? Did doing a certain movement really make me feel good? Did warming up a certain way make me feel better or worse? So just a little bit there around self-experimentation. But what I really want you guys to think about in all of this is we've got 3 weeks. We're at the halfway point. So let's dig deep. Let's get those habits back on track if they went a little bit skew over Thanksgiving. And if they didn't, credit to you guys. That's all your hard work, okay? So I want you to acknowledge that. And then let's move on for those last 3 weeks. Thanks, guys. All right, team.
We're back.
Week 4, going into week 4. So carrying on from a little bit of the video this morning, really want to have a discussion about reflection and self-assessment.
Being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
It's tough.
It's sort of that soft skill, like we call it soft skills, don't we? Like it's generally the terms, but it's often like the hardest thing to do.
Well, because it's one of the things that like you're almost dismissing it while you're doing it sometimes, and then other times, like we've said before, you're always your hardest critic or your worst critic. So we've been trying to encourage you guys to take those small wins in and notice some of the small changes, even if it's your consistency. Even if your consistency was like once a month to now you've started to work something in every day of the week, or almost every day of the week you're hitting on those goals that you're looking for, or at least starting with those few choices that we picked at the very beginning of those habits. So hopefully by now some of those habits you guys have picked have started kind of hitting full stride, and that's what we're here to kind of go over. Like, be honest with yourself about those things. Am I getting my water in the morning? Is it easy or not for me to get my protein? Do I need to just take a second and talk to Kira or Andrew about it and go, hey, I'm hitting a brick wall. What's going on? I'm super hungry. I need something to change. Or, for example, we have a few of you guys that have kids. And that is life changing at a moment's notice. So, like, you guys definitely have a bigger obstacle to get through or get over as far as preparation and being able to kind of make better choices, because when that child's hungry, you feed the child. And if you're kind of hungry at that same time, I mean, I've seen it a bazillion times. Like, if you're making the kid food, you're probably going to take a bite or two. And it's just one of those things that we want you guys to be honest with yourself over. And if we need to adjust a few things, it's week 4. We got 2 weeks left.
3.
3.
We're going into week 4. We got 3
sorry,
weeks.
4, 5, 6. We have 3 weeks left. Still.
But really and truly, this is like the tough point.
Yeah.
You guys have made it through Thanksgiving. And so what I want you to really do And whether this is whatever you want to call it, whether it's mindfulness or it's reflection, what cues have been really good for you to make your habits work? What cues haven't worked? Like, there is no point continuing something that is not working.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to drive yourself into the ground. It's like, okay, this isn't working for me. If it's something I need, then how do I figure out a path to it? If it's something that I don't think I really need, do I really want to continue that habit?
Yeah.
Like sometimes, like, okay, so there's swimming's my crux right now. I know how to swim. I can keep myself afloat. I'm never going to be a swim for speed. Like, there's no need for it in my life.
Okay, so your thoughts on swimming are my thoughts on running.
Yeah.
I love it, but I'm not here to go fast. I'm here
Yeah.
just to enjoy the process and enjoy the time and better what I can do.
Yeah.
But I definitely don't compare myself with anybody when I'm in that realm.
But in that case, like, I'm not going to create all of my habits around trying to be so much better at swimming, because
No.
at the end of the day, that's not going to give me any value. If it's something that I really, really want, like a lifetime achievement, I want to be able to swim in, there's the race down here, the Mermaid
one.
Mile.
Or even some,
And
yeah.
so if I really, really wanted to do that, that was going to be a lifetime goal, then yeah, I am going to push my habits and move things out of the way to make that work.
And don't overstep that, or like forget about things that like are small checkpoints in between, like with the swimming. Hey, if she wants to go swimming and we're just getting in the water and we're just making effort, you're doing something, but make those small checkpoints too. Like, hey, I want to be able to swim a 50 unbroken. Okay, cool. I want to be able to swim a 200 unbroken. Okay, cool. You don't have to go enter a triathlon right away or anything like that, because you're going to go against some good swimmers. And if that's your goal, great. But like you were saying, hey, I just want to add in a little bit of extra exercise. I want to be good enough so it benefits my fitness and not struggling to the point where I'm not enjoying it.
Yeah. So
that's like the little hiccup that may be oversighted there. But besides that,
yeah, so it's those little reflections on, is it a nice to have?
or is it
a
eating up your
need?
time?
Is it like, okay, so we all have a priority for our health. That is something that we all need in life.
Yeah.
Like, we need to be healthy to function, but all of the accessory stuff. So that's why I'm thinking about reflecting with goals. If it's not working for you and it's not like giving you joy, it's not
Adding
like
benefits to your life or making it easier.
it's time to reflect and think, okay, is this something I want to continue? Whereas there's sort of things in life, like, I really, really, really want to do this for me, for, like, this is where something like the 5 whys. So when you talk about tools of reflection, so like in situational analysis, you do the 5 whys.
Okay.
So I want to run a marathon. Well, why do you want to run a marathon? Because I've always wanted to. Well, why have you always wanted to? So you ask
go a little
yourself
deeper, yeah.
why, like 5 or 6 times. It's usually around 5 that you'll get that core reason why someone wants to do something. So ask yourself, like, if you come up upon an obstacle, ask yourself the 5 whys. It's not going to take half an hour.
No,
You can run through those pretty quick in your brain as to what you want to do. Like a simple thing. Okay, I would have gone up and had about 3 or 4 helpings of dessert the other night.
Okay.
But I mean, in 2 whys, I was like, okay, stop being like, why do I want to go up there? Because I just want to pig out. I'm in a crappy mood. I want to
Just to taste some things.
Yeah. And then if it was a case of, okay, it took me 2 whys for me to go, I don't need to do that. It's just me being emotional. It's me reacting to a situation, and going up to the dessert table 3 times is not going to put me in a better mood. It's not going to benefit me in any way. So
I did the same thing, but kind of like in the opposite, well, not opposite way, but a little bit different. I didn't ask myself why, but like I said, and I think we talked about this a little bit before. Instead of just hitting that sweet right away, I said to myself, can I eat some more turkey, or can I eat some more of some of that substantial food before I dive in and just go crazy on the dessert table? Because again, I'm going to go to that dessert table.
At one point or another.
It's going to be a lot less intake, and I'm not going to gorge myself as much if I've went back and had that second helping of turkey, or a little bit more mashed potatoes, or something that maybe doesn't have as much sugar in it, or something like that. And again, then when I went to the dessert table, it wasn't as bad. I was able to have a little bit of this and that and share. So, again, we all have our own way of doing it. There's not a one way suits all there. And again, like what Kira's saying, but kind of on another route, is like, if it's difficult but working, doesn't mean it falls into the category of we're going to think about getting rid of it.
Yeah.
Some of the most beneficial things that I do are some of the most pain in the ass things.
Yeah.
And it's, you look back and you're like, after a while, they get a little easier, but are they still a pain in the ass sometimes? Yeah. Oh. Example, ice bath. I love the ice.
I was going to say food prep.
But, well, yeah, food prep, there's a lot of little things, but like the ice bath, like, you'll talk to some people and they'll go, oh, it gets easier. Yes, it does get a little mentally easier, but you still have to talk yourself into it every single time. Yeah. I'm sorry, and I'll say this to you up front or out back or whatever, but those of you who just get in there and say, oh, it's fine, it's either way warm or you turn your brain off, and that's not the point of it either. So there are little things that you see us doing that are difficult for us, but the benefit outweighs the not, and that makes it worth it for us for sure. Yeah. So don't judge your habits by difficulty, judge them by outcome.
Yeah. And again, like all of this, we are literally just having a continuous conversation about self-assessment. So there are some tools.
Yes.
So like if you're in the business world, what I'm thinking of is like the 5R framework. So reporting, responding, relating, reasoning, and reconstructing. In a nutshell, you're taking in information, you're analyzing it, you're reevaluating its value, or you're reevaluating it and you're reconstructing it and outputting or changing. And the tools you can use to do that. I'm a big pen and paper person, so I will journal. And I'll send you a picture of some journals. And don't ask me how many are in Australia, but I have a paper journal, and every day I write down something I'm grateful for, what would make my day really great, and I plan out my day. And I put a picture in the chat, as part of my habit tracker as well. A written record.
Yeah, no, writing it down, big time. I'm more of a calendar person because I like to see it all. If my wife would let me, I would do a whiteboard on my whole wall.
I used to have a blackboard.
Visually map it out because I like to see it. So I have a big chalkboard at the house with like a couple months written on it, the goals for those months or like things we're doing those months, so that I keep it kind of in the back of my mind. At my desk where I sit most of the time throughout the day, I have a big old school paper calendar. At the end of the year, I asked Jack to order me a new one, and she laughs at me, but it's like the one that you keep on your desk, and it's just little notes. Everything from today was a good day, I got waves today, class was good today, I got to talk with so-and-so today, or like just basic little wins or losses or events, and it's just cool to look back and see the progress, because like, again, we say you forget pretty instantly about all the hard work you put in.
Yeah. Like literally you will celebrate a moment and then the next moment you'll be like, but it should have been. So this is journaling's a really good way, and like digital, voice memos, put it in your phone, write it down. Yeah. Lots of different apps as well out there, and free apps.
Yeah, whatever your style that works better for you to do it. If you're like, I got to do it instantly, put it in the phone, or I'm going to forget. If you need to write it down and put it in your pot, whatever you need to do just to get it out and on the paper or onto the phone or whatever, because how many times have you been in the car and had that brilliant idea, and then by the time you get home to do it, you're like, what was that?
My problem is that I'm on a voice note and it doesn't understand my accent sometimes.
Yeah.
So it's a bunch of jumbled mess. But going from that is some journaling, so then into a form of journaling, but tracking.
Yeah.
So we've got Sugarwood at the
Yep.
gym. Record your lifts. Record the benchmark workouts, because you will surprise yourself.
Oh yeah,
Okay?
especially with a couple months or a year's progress is. Like if you just start typing that stuff in, you look back a year, you're like, I used to lift what? I used to do what?
Yeah.
Whether it's good or bad,
Yeah.
it's good to see. Hey, why is this happen? Why did this happen? Or like maybe you had life changes or things like that. Hey, why did this happen for this month? Oh, maybe we were pregnant, or maybe we went away for a
Something
month, or
happened
maybe
that
something
wasn't-
happened, or
Yeah.
I hurt my leg, or what? You know what I mean? There's so many little benchmarks and little check marks that you can kind of go back and look at, and
Yeah.
like we said, either celebrate or just notice, like, hey, this was going on then. That's probably why this was happening, or I was optimally training and everything was hitting stride, and that's why everything was looking great. And then
Yeah.
you're like, well, why aren't I doing that again? Well, maybe you aren't training the same way
Yeah.
you were, and just be realistic with yourself.
And then tracking food.
Yeah.
So
MyFitnessPal is
My
always.
FitnessPal, MacroStacks, there are a few of them
Probably
out there.
hundreds of them now.
Yeah.
But some of them are like literally, we talk about MyFitnessPal because you can take pictures of the barcode
Yeah.
and it puts it in there for, like, you
Yeah.
couldn't get any easier. And I'm sure there's a few that do that now, but
Yeah.
literally everything from your breakdown of your macros that I think you talked about earlier today, all the way down to your nutrition guide and
Yeah.
like comparable things sometimes even.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's a way of, so I had a really crappy training day today, but then I realized that I ate late last night. I had a heavy fat, nice big steak. So yeah, I woke up feeling a bit sluggish. I wasn't the best, but I've been tracking for 6 years now. So I know that's, on reflecting at the end of that, I'm going, okay, yep, that's why, instead of going, why am I feeling so sluggish? I'm going to beat myself up. It's like, okay, that's self-awareness. I
Yeah.
know this is why, and X, Y, and Z reasons.
Yep.
Put it down to a bad day and move on.
And then we're going to do both sides of that coin, because I know she's had 1,000 of these days as well too. But like, I had a big run this morning, and I knew last night if I wasn't adamant about what I ate and how much rest I got, that run wasn't going to happen.
Yeah.
It was going to physically happen, but I didn't know if I was going to
wasn't gonna
physically
be enjoyable.
accomplish it, or it'd be enjoyable, or I'd be in the right headspace, or
Yeah.
anything like that. So
Yeah.
I made sure I ate relatively early to go into bed. I made sure I ate a little extra carbs that day. I made sure I drank a little extra water that day, and then went to bed at night. Got a good solid, we'll say 7 to 8 hours, and then I went out for that run, and it was like getting started. But getting started anytime when it's a little chilly is a little creaky. But halfway into the run, I think I had my two best splits were my 12 and my 14 miles.
Nice.
So it's like, if you can hit those pretty good and you come back with a positive mind,
Yeah.
my legs feel okay today. Don't ask me tomorrow. And all these other little things, to where before I started chatting with Kira or taking athletic nutrition into a different kind of spectrum, as opposed to, I'll just eat this, or I'll just drink more water, or
yeah.
just kind of wing it. It's not that I couldn't get through the action, it's the repercussions after.
Yeah.
And I'm just super thankful, because like today I was able to just do the rest of the chores in my house and hang out with my dogs and see my wife, and not just be like on the
flat.
couch and
Yeah.
legs up. And so nutrition planning
Yeah.
and hitting that kind of stuff in stride definitely is helpful and beneficial.
Yeah.
So just pay attention to that stuff too. Like, I had a big thing in mind, on task, on paper. I knew I was hitting it today, so I was like a little stressed about it, and made sure that the only thing I needed to really stress about was the task, not my nutrition, not my hydration, not my batteries in my earphones and all that kind of stuff. So
And that all comes from analyzing previous performances.
100%.
So there is a reason why we say to reflect and track and look at these things, because having one bad day can lead to having two, to lead to having three, to lead to having an entire 2 weeks off because you're in a bad mood. Whereas if you can sit and rationally analyze it and say, okay, I had a bad day, X, Y, and Z happened, this is why, put that in a box and move that away and move on.
Absolutely.
So a few other things, and I've included this in the email as well. There's things like the Wheel of Life, which is an exercise you can do, just analyzing how you feel within certain aspects of your life, and that's just a bit of a self-reflection tool. Visual representations, calendar, mind maps, diagrams, sketches.
Like draw pictures, whatever you got to do. Like literally, whatever kind of notes you need to make to remember things, make them.
Yeah. Bullet journaling, lists, self-talk, voice recording, observational writing, reflective writing, and last one, talking to others.
I mean, that's the one that hits it for me because the journaling, the diaries, the notes on my calendar, I'm not really sharing that with anybody.
Yeah.
Maybe at some point or whatever, if I feel comfortable with somebody, like we can reflect on it together, or maybe I'll show them as far as like some guidance as far as what I did to maybe help inspire them to do something. But when you say something to somebody, hey, I'm running that marathon in 2 weeks. It's happening. I'm signing up. You want to watch me sign up?
Yeah.
Now there's somebody to hold you accountable.
Yeah.
Whether they actually hold you accountable or they just talk to other people like, I don't think Andrew's gonna do it. It's out in the world. It's there. It's verbalized, and that's, for me at least, that's like when it starts to come to fruition.
Yeah. But the amount of times as well, like I've come in again if I've had a bad lift and I've talked to you about it and you're like, okay, well, what are you focusing on right now? Like talking to someone and figuring it out, sort of doing that reflective work. Like, okay, so you had one bad lift. Okay, so how did the rest of your session go? Okay, so what have you been focusing on? Okay, so you haven't been focusing on that lift for a little while.
No, it's like when you lose your keys. The only thing you're worried about is finding those keys, and then as soon as you take a second and start talking to somebody about it, it's like, oh, those keys are right here on the side.
Yeah.
So it happens with other things too.
All tools and ways of self-assessing and reflecting.
Yeah.
Hugely important, especially right now as you guys are finishing off week 3, I think going into week 4. You've had a few days. Thanksgiving's come smack in the middle of all of this. Like you've had a few days off. That routine isn't there. Like look back on the past few weeks and see the changes that you've made. Look at your habit tracker, see what you've managed to achieve. Because even if you don't think you've managed to achieve something, you will have. So this is a really critical point, I think. Like you need to start analyzing and being self-aware of these situations. Like credit to everyone who's been rocking up through Thanksgiving. I know some of you aren't here, some of you are overseas or not overseas, but
different states.
States. But I'm guaranteed that you guys have been showing up for yourself as well. So give yourselves credit, do a little bit of self-reflecting, and, choose. Talked about it earlier. Are we going to run into the next 3 weeks and double down and make sure these habits are nailed?
Because you know what?
Are we going to slack?
Christmas is 3.5 weeks away, so we have round 2 coming right around the corner.
Yeah.
So again, don't beat yourself up over it. What those little things that maybe didn't work or you had a little obstacle for Thanksgiving, it's coming again in a few weeks. Let's figure out how we make that better.
Yeah.
So, and again, repeating it is going to make things get better, and it's going to make things get easier. So keep trying to repeat that task or repeat that habit, and it'll get better.
Last thing, I'm a sucker, as I said, for pen and paper. So if you're around the gym in the next few days, there are going to be some of these bad boys up at the front for you. Grab one, put a pen to paper, give it to someone who you think might need a bit of journaling. But these are for you guys. They're going to be up front there, or ask Andrew. And yeah, let's run all the way home into Christmas.
Yeah, we're getting close. Scary. Get your shopping done now.